بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته everyone. Welcome to our second Majlis, learning Tafseer, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, starting from Surah An-Naml. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our sins of our shuyukh, our parents, our beloved ones, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq so we can benefit and learn something in this gathering today. So last week, alhamdulillah, we started after the introduction, we started the surah, Surah An-Naml. I'm going to say this again for those people who joined us today. The reason for choosing Surah An-Naml, there is no specific reason and we jumped and we went into Surah An-Naml from the Quran. The only reason for that is because it's continuation. We started from the middle of the Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, and this is where this lesson is a continuation of lesson starts about 7 years ago. So we are continuing learning the Tafseer. So that's the only reason. Last week we learned the saying of Allah. Well, we start with the introduction of the surah. We introduced the surah, the name of the surah, the number of the ayat, and whether the surah is a Makkiyya or Madaniya. We highlighted the features of the surah, the Makki surah, because this is surah Makkiyya. And we started with the tafsir of Tafseer. And then we went to Tilka Ayatul Quran wa Kitab al-Mubin. So the first ayah we talked about, just to remind you quickly, brief of what we covered. So we said the revelation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is Quran. Quran means maqru, it's readable, so you can read it. Is a revelation that can be read, and that is the meaning of the word Quran. The word Quran in Arabic, it means maqru. Maqru means can be read. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said his words, the Quran, to Jibreel. Jibreel said them to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Muhammad recited that to his companions. Until today we recite the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, do not look into some of the sects, what they say about the Quran. We have a sect in Islam called the Ash'ari. They're saying the Quran is what the meaning which is in the nafs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gave the ability to Jibreel to understand and to know what Allah wanted to say to Muhammad, and Jibreel and went and said that to Muhammad. That is absolutely incorrect. Allah said, He said the words, كَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا. Allah said the words of the Quran to Muhammad, to Jibreel. Jibreel came down to Rasulullah sallallahu with the revelation. So that's the word Quran. وَكِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. And also the Quran is a kitab. Kitab in Arabic, brothers and sisters, you have to hear the word in Arabic. In Arabic, the Quran was revealed in Arabic, so all the time we have to use Arabic. Kitab means maktub. Maktub in Arabic patterns, it means is written. And the Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is written, and that's written in a Lawh al-Mahfuz, and also written for us later on in our as was collected, where Rasulullah used to say that to the Sahaba used to write that in different places, and later on was gathered by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and then later on by Uthman ibn Affan. So the ayat of the Quran, the revelation, Quran, Allah described with two words, Quran and Kitab. So what we recite, which is the revelation that Allah received to Muhammad, sent to Muhammad sallam, is a maktub, is written, and it's also maqru, and we recite that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described also the word mubin. Mubin, it shows the haqq, shows the truth, and differentiate between the truth and the batil. Everything that we see in the Quran, it clarifies things, it makes the things clear. We have matters in the Sharia, matters to do with one is not everything in Sharia was made clear in the Quran, but we have the guides of the Quran where you get the clarity of these masail. You might say we don't have details of the salah in the Quran. When we say that the Sunnah of Rasulullah clarified everything to do with the salah. We have the zakat generally mentioned in the Quran, but we don't have the rules of the zakat in the Quran. We have the Sunnah of Rasulullah clarifying everything. So the Quran is al-Mubin, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Everything was clear and made clear in the Quran. One may say, as I said earlier, not everything in there. And reality, this was said. And that's during the time of the Sahaba, a lady, and that's in Sahih Bukhari, a lady came to Rasulullah, to Abdullah bin Mas'ud, when he was the Shaykh, the Imam, the Mufti, the Alim, the scholar of Al-Kufa, she said to him, Ya Aba Rahman, you are saying the Quran clarified everything, and you're saying the Quran is a mubin. Mubin, it clarifies and makes things clearer of the matters of the Sharia. Ibn Mas'ud was talking about لَعَنَ اللَّهُ النَّامِصَ وَالْمُتَنَمِّصَ. You know Namisa? I'm going to say something that I don't want to upset anyone, but a Namisa is the lady who thins her eyebrows, or the lady who takes, removes the hair from there and makes the eyebrows thin. And he said, he narrated the hadith of Rasulullah, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ النَّامِسَ وَالْمُتَنَمِّسَ. May Allah curse the one who's doing that and the one who is requesting that. And the lady said to him, Ya Aba Abdul Rahman, we don't see that in the book of Allah. And you said the Sharia all in the book of Allah, and you said the Quran is a mubin, and it's not in the book of Allah. He said, Bala, it is in the book of Allah. So where is it? He said, recited to her the ayah, وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. It means what Rasulullah gave you and commanded you to do it. And what Rasulullah said haram, and he made a nahi about it, you should avoid it. So that's in the Quran. That's the guidance. And that's why we have the following word. وَهُدًى. Huda. The Quran is a guidance for us. It gives us, he guided, the Quran is a guidance. You know the story of Al-Najashi. The story of Al-Najashi, the leader of Abyssinia. When the Quran, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, when he read to him the beginning of Surah Taha and the narration of Surah Maryam, he got affected. It was a guidance for him to accept Islam. We have Umar ibn al-Khattab, when he heard something from the Quran, it was a guidance for him to accept the Islam. And there's so many stories like that. The Quran also for the believers themselves. You're a believer, you don't need to accept the Islam as a religion. When you read the Quran, you see the guides in there, you get affected with one ayah, two ayah, a surah, and you see the way for you clearly for your life. So the Quran is a huda wa bushra. And the Quran is a bushra. You read in there what Allah prepared for the believers. You read in the Quran what Allah prepared for al-muttaqeen, what Allah prepared for al-muhsineen, what Allah prepared for al-sabirin. And all of that is in the Quran. So the Quran, all of it is a bushra for you believers. And that's why Allah said, لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ يُوقِنُونَ. We did talk about this last week. The main thing that I want to revise about this is the surah, as we said, surah is a Makkiyah. It might come to your mind, we know that the surah, which is a Makki, it doesn't talk about anything of the ahkam, the rules, halal and haram, do or don't do, with an exception to akhlaq and tawheed. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about alladhina, those they establish and they perform the salah and they give the zakah. وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. We didn't mention the explanation of this. Salah was made compulsory in year 10 at the time of Al-Isra al-Mi'raj, when Rasulullah received that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Although there is a view that the salah was made compulsory earlier, when Rasulullah, the first time when he received the revelation from Jibreel, at the time when Allah said to him, or Jibreel said to him, Iqra bismi rabbika. We have one narration that from Muhammad ibn Ishaq, the great Imam of the Seerah, he said Jibreel at the end, he showed him the salawat and he showed him how to make wudu. This narration, in my opinion, is weak, and the fuqaha, the scholar, the Jews, they think about as a weak narration, and the right opinion of salah was made compulsory in year 10. So Rasulullah prayed in Mecca for how many years? How many years Rasulullah prayed the salawat in Mecca? 3, thank you. 3 years, but Rasulullah stayed in Mecca 13 years. If the salah was made compulsory in year 10, so 3 years he prayed in there, the Sahaba prayed in there as well. Zakat, so that's the answer of this ayah. To not to get confused that why talking about salah is a Makki surah. Yes, you'll find words of salah in a Makki surah, because the salah even before that, it can be understood as supplication and making dua. وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. How the zakah, we know famously is known that the zakah was made compulsory in year 2 in Medina. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the zakah in a surah which was revealed in Mecca. The answer of that is 2 answers. One answer, either you say the right opinion that the zakah was made compulsory in Mecca, so that's a view, And the second view said, and that is what I believe in it myself, the zakah as zakah in general was made compulsory in Mecca, But details of the zakah, which is you having the nisab and you having al-hawl, which is 1 full year, and having the right nisab for the right amount, whether you gold or silver, the details of that was made clarified in Medina. So the start of making the zakah obligatory was in Mecca, but then the completion of that obligation was in Medina. So early time in Mecca, the Sharia recommended for the Muslims to use the zakat, to give a charity. Abu Bakr Siddiq used to buy slaves and he used to give them a free fi sabilillah, and that's part of the charity. وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ يُوقِنُونَ, we talk about al-akhirah because that's the main issue between the disbelievers in Mecca and the Rasulullah sallam. They deny believing that they will be resurrected Yawm al-Qiyamah, which is al-akhirah. I think that's what we covered so far. Today we start from the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة زينا لهم أعمالهم فهم يعمهون. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the first group, which is the believers, and He described them, and this is a lot in the Quran. And to show you that's one lesson, brothers and sisters, to be fair all the time. Allah used al-adl. Whenever He described the believers, He will give you a description of the believers. Whenever He talks about what are the rewards of the believers, He will talk about also what the disbelievers will get in the hellfire later on in the akhirah. So all the time you see it in there. And what we call in Sharia is targhib and tarheeb. Targhib is to encourage them of what is in their description. So you try to imitate these qualities. You try to be one of those people when you talk about the believers. When you talk about disbelievers, it's for you there to know it so you can avoid it. You're not going to be one of them. So, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ, surely indeed, those that don't believe in al-akhirah. So they don't believe in the akhirah. That's the main issue in the Makki period. In the Mecca period, the main issue in thereafter, believing that Allah, He should be the only one deserved to be worshipped, no one else with Him. After that, talking about Yawm al-Qiyamah, Yawm al-Akhir, to get resurrected from your grave and you will be judged in front of Allah. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ, those that don't believe in the akhirah, what is their description? Allah described them with one thing. What is it? زَيَّنَّا لَهُمْ أَعْمَالَهُم. They see their sins as good. Whenever they do bad deeds, their bad deeds, they see it as good deeds. They will not reflect, they will not look to their bad deeds as a bad action, bad deeds. They will look at it all the time as something good. There's no wrong with that. What's wrong with dates that I eat it in the evening, but in the morning when I want to worship God, there's no God in there. From the dates that I have them, I make a statue in there, and I worship that thing as a God for me. What is wrong by my wife gave birth into a baby girl, I go and kill that al-maw'udan. I will bury her while she's alive. What is wrong by I am one of the leaders of Mecca, there is a poor person in there, and someone trading with him, he's not from Mecca, I will take his money by force. So they look into their bad deeds, there's nothing wrong with it. زَيَّنَّا لَهُمْ أَعْمَالَهُم. The tazeen, Allah made it in their minds, in their logic, in their system, that this is nothing wrong with these a'mal, and we consider these a'mal as sins, starting from the shirk, from the kufr, prostrating, worshipping the idols, going into relationship with their children, with their wives, with the others. All of that, they look at it as nothing wrong with it, but we look at it as a sin. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, زَيَّنَّا لَهُمْ أَعْمَالَهُمْ فَهُمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. They are يَعْمَهُونَ. Al-'amah is a taraddud. Someone is being there, hesitating all the time. They do it and they think about it as nothing wrong with it, but at the same time, Allah giving that hesitation inside them. Having taraddud, having that, being not stable all the time, they're having problems inside their minds. And that is a reality. If you read the seerah of Rasulullah, you see the disbelievers, although they are firm in front of Rasulullah and disbelieving in everything, but in their reality inside, as Abu Jahl and others, when they heard the recitation of the Quran, he said, Inna alayhi lahalal. It's really sweet talk, sweet words. and they know that it's not the words of Muhammad, the words of God. They know that, and because they're having that al-amal is a taraddud, being someone hesitating and not sure, not really firm with what you have inside your system and that you believe in. And because of that, my dear brothers and sisters, I mean, now we're talking about disbelievers, let's talk about ourselves. Every ayah, you look at it, don't say it's not related to me. Allah revealed that to Muhammad Sallallahu and asked to understand the qualities of disbelievers, but at the same time, look to yourself. They're saying, when you are committing a sin and you're not reflecting upon your sin and you continue committing the same sin, you are imitating the actions of disbelievers, the mushriks of Makkah. At that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at that time, we believe your iman is less. And in particular, your iman of the day of judgment is less. Why? Because you know that you're committing a sin and you continue committing the sin. You continue committing the sin and you're not non-stop. You do it, let's say weekly, monthly, and you continue doing the same sin. Why? Because you don't have a strong belief in the Yawm al-Qiyamah, Yawm al-Akhir. And that is إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرِ. The connection, you don't believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah, Yawm al-Akhir, because when you'll be resurrected, you'll be judged, you'll be you'll be told about what you did, what you didn't do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connected that with زَيَّنَّا لَهُمْ أَعْمَالَهُم. Their actions was made for them in their mind, in their belief, as really good actions, good deeds. But for us, we look into whether it's good or bad by the Sharia. The Sharia tells us what is good and what is bad, and based on that, we perform our ibadah. So, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ زَيَّنَّا لَهُمْ أَعْمَالَهُمْ فَهُمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. This was made and mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to differentiate between the two groups, and we have the first group are the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continued to talk about them. He said, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْعَذَابِ وَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ هُمُ الْأَخْسَرُونَ. أُولَٰئِكَ, those. Who are those? They don't believe in Yawm al-Akhir. It was called al-Akhir, Yawm al-Akhir, or al-Akhirah. The word Akhir because it is the last day. Al-Yawm al-Akhir. Yawm is a day, and Akhir last. Why it's last? Because there's no other day after that. After that, Yawm al-Qiyamah and Jannah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gather us all in there, or Jahannam for the others. And Jannah, there's no day. There's no night. All is a period. You're not going to be tired to go for sleep evening time. You're not going to have that. It's all daytime. So there is no day, there's no amount of a day and night and day 1, day 2, day 3. There's no that system doesn't work in there. And because the last day for the believers, for those who their action will be counted, and you'll be accountable for everything you do. That's what we call last day. Yawm al-Akhir. And it's called al-Akhirah for after that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْعَذَابِ. أُولَٰئِكَ, those who don't believe in the Akhirah, for them, لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْعَذَابِ. And then he said, وَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ. I'll come to the word وَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ just to highlight in here. As if Allah wants to say, there is something for them in the dunya, in this life, and there is something for them in the Akhirah. For this dunya, لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْعَذَابِ. During the dunya, during their lives, what they will get, su al-adhab. The view of Jumhur al-Ulama, Jumhur of the Mufassirin, they said su al-adhab are two things. To be killed and to be caught as a prisoner. Because they refer to the mushriks of Makkah, Quraysh. And they caught as prisoners in Badr, the Battle of Badr, as you know, that's the first battle between Muslims and the mushriks. And some of them were killed in Badr. As you know that, the Utbah and Abu Jahl and Umayyah and others. So some of them were killed and some of them were caught as prisoners. So أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْعَذَابِ. So this is the tafseer of Jumhur al-Ulama. If you look into the context of the ayah and why this ayat was revealed. But there is another view which is a valid view. We will look into the ayat as general meaning, which is those who don't believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah, for them there will be a severe punishment in the dunya. How it's going to be, we don't know. And that is in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for them in the dunya, su al-adhab. Su means a very severe, adhab is a punishment. How that punishment is going to be, you don't know it. That is for the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's in the dunya. So they have something in this dunya and also for the akhirah. وَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ, and they will be in the akhirah. We didn't mention about the akhirah, يوم القيامة. هُمُ الْأَخْسَرُونَ. They will be al-akhsarun. Al-akhsarun from khasira yakhsar. And that means in Arabic to be amongst those, the losers. The pattern of al-akhsarun, brothers and sisters, it is, pattern in Arabic is akhsar. And there is another pattern for that is khasir. Allah used al-akhsarun. He wanted to show you the most people, there is no one more than them in being losers yawm al-qiyamah. So our ulama, they said we can divide the people yawm al-qiyamah and in this dunya on 3 levels. There will be al-rabihun, the winners. That's al-rabih, the winners. And who are the winners? Al-rabihun, those who are believing in Allah, they believe in His books, Yawm al-Qiyamah, His messengers, His angels, and they believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Yawm al-Akhir. They believe they fulfill all the pillars of the Iman. That's al-Rabihun. They will come Yawm al-Qiyamah, they fulfill all the pillars of al-Iman. And they fulfill all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's obligation. There is second level, al-Khasirun. Remember, listen to this, the pattern, even if you don't know Arabic, listen to the sound, it's different. Khasirun and akhsarun. Khasirun, losers, but they're not the worst level of being the loser. They're losers because they will go into Jahannam for a period of time, and then because they committed sins in their lives, they did not fulfill all Allah's obligations. They made problems for themselves by committing some major sins. They unlucky, I'm saying this word, unlucky, they did not get any intercession, any shafa'ah. They did not have enough good deeds to wipe off, their sins. They did not have family members, we talked about in the Jummah, didn't have good friends to give them a shafa'ah yawm al-qiyamah, to get them from the trouble that they would be in into Jannah. So they will be in there, but because they have the asl of the deen, which is al-iman, which is al-tawheed, they will be remaining for Jahannam for a period of time, and that is all in the willings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Mashiach of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't know how long, we don't know how it's going to be, and then they will be taken out and they will be in Jannah. So they are, in reality, they are losers, but they are not very severe losers. And then Allah mentioned the third level, and that's al-akhsarun. So akhsar, and that's the beauty of Arabic language. We have a pattern called af'al. We have fa'ala and af'al. The one af'al, the pattern of af'al, it means the most ones. So they have nothing there for them to help them. They are akhsarun. They don't believe in Allah. They didn't believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah. And they did not fulfill Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's obligations, even if they did good in their lives. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Aisha, she's from Bani Taym, she's Taymiyyah. Abu Bakr Siddiq, her father, is from Bani Taym. And in Taym, as a tribe, to see brothers and sisters, we all the time think about our own caste and people. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about Abdullah ibn Jud'an. Abdullah ibn Jud'an is a personality, very famous personality in Jahiliyyah time. If we think about him as someone with his qualities, nowadays people, when they look into someone who is not Muslim, but a person, he or she has very fantastic qualities, saying, oh, the only thing is missing for this person is to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Means the Tawheed. Abdullah bin Jud'an was one of those people. He used to stand with the poor, he used to help the weak, he had with Rasulullah sallallahu joined them in Hilf al-Fudul. Hilf al-Fudul, when the good people in Mecca and Quraysh, they all stood together to help the poor and the weak ones. And he used to do so great actions to help the people in Mecca. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha asked Rasulullah sallallahu, she said, what about Abdullah bin Jud'an? When all his deeds that he made, the charities that he used to give during Jahiliyyah time, will help him? Rasulullah said, no. He said, he never said, Rabbi ghfirli. Means that he never admitted that there is a Lord for him, he is the one who would forgive the sins, and he is the one that you should and he deserved to be worshipped. Because of that, even if he did good deeds, he will be in Jahannam. So he will be amongst al-akhsarun because he did not believe that there will be Yawm al-Qiyamah, will be judged in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, now that was kind of the introduction to the surah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connecting the beginning of the surah, which is ayat al-Quran, wa kitabin mubin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connecting that with this ayah. إِنَّكَ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ مِنْ لَدُنْ حَكِيمٍ عَلِيمٍ. You, O Muhammad, referring back into Tafseer, as we said last week, is related to our Quran. Allah said here, وَإِنَّكَ you, O Muhammad, surely لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ. Tulaqqa, this sentence in Arabic, a very emphasized statement. The very emphasized statement because we have inna and we have the la, letulaqqa. That la, the letter la, in Arabic language, you have a big word, you say indeed, surely. So that's the word that we're using it to translate just that lam, the lam, لَتُلَقَّى. وَإِنَّكَ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ مِنْ لَدُنْ حَكِيمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Surely, O Muhammad, with no doubt that you receive tulaqqa from a talqeen. And a talqeen, my dear brothers and sisters, now this is a very important to know about the revelation. A talqeen means when I read to you and you read after me. Arabic style in teaching Quran is unlike the Asian style. Arabic style is making everyone Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. You repeat. So you repeat. One ayah, you repeat. You repeat what the teacher says, you repeat that. That's a talqeen. This is the Arabic style. Learn from him. إِنَّكَ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ. O Muhammad, you receive the Quran from min ladun, min ind hakim. We talk about that as from Allah in the way of a talqeen. And that is when Jibreel, he reads to you the ayah and you read the ayah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described that also in Surah Al-Qiyamah. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to read that faster. And he was rushing in reading the ayat after Jibreel used to read it because he was worried that he might forget it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him, slow down and don't worry about that. We will protect the Quran and you will read it. So, إِنَّكَ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ. O Muhammad, you receive the Quran from us in the way of a talqeen. Jibreel will read it and you will read it after that and will remain in your mind. You won't get to forget that. So, وَإِنَّكَ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said again, describe his revelation with the word Quran. And we said before, Quran is a maqru because you read it and Muhammad read it. Now, the way how Muhammad received the Quran, the revelation, and said, brothers and sisters, there are different ways. The revelation was received by Muhammad. You need to know this because people, they think it's only when Jibreel comes to Rasulullah, and even some of us, we don't know how he used to come to him. First, Rasulullah in early time, he used to receive the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through al-ru'ya salihah, having correct and the pious dream. And that was at the beginning. Rasulullah used to have a ru'ya salihah, and the ru'ya means the dream of the Anbiya is a valid revelation. And that's what happened to Ibrahim alayhi salam, and it happened to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And that is part of the revelation. Not to you. For us, if we see a dream, it means nothing. Don't think about as a rule, haram or halal, something that you must do. And also, the revelation used to come to Rasulullah through Jibreel used to take the image of a Sahabi, and that is sometimes Dihya ibn Khalifa al-Kalbi, and sometimes the image of a person, just a person, used to come to Rasulullah and used to give him the revelation. And thirdly, the revelation used to come to Rasulullah directly to his heart. Directly goes into his heart, and that is when it comes very heavy on Rasulullah. And one of the ways when it comes heavy upon Rasulullah. And sometimes when Jibreel will be there and he will receive the Quran in the way how Allah described it now. And that is when it was described by Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. She said, even in a day when it's cold, we see the sweating on the forehead of Rasulullah, although the day was cold day. To see how heavy is the revelation of Rasulullah when he receives that. And there are some very rare times when Rasulullah saw Jibreel directly in his image, how Allah created him as an angel. And we have one occasion when Rasulullah received the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, and that in Sidrat al-Muntaha in al-Mi'raj. These are the ways that how Rasulullah received the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِنَّكَ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ مِنْ لَدُنْ. That Quran, the revelation, my dear brothers and sisters, مِنْ لَدُنْ, from Ladun means ilm, from Hakimin Alim. Allah described himself as Hakimin Alim. We use the word, Allah used the names here. Allah's name is Hakim, Allah's name is Alim. He used them, what we say in English, indefinite. He did not say Al-Hakim, Al-Alim. Al-Hakim, the all-wise, Al-Alim, all-knowing. He did not say that. We have it Hakim and Alim. In Arabic, when we use the word as indefinite, is to glorify it. Is one of the ways to glorify the person, having the name as indefinite. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected these two names in particular, the word Hakim and the word Alim? Why he did not say, for example, why he didn't say, for example, min ladun sami'in basir? Why he didn't say min ladun azizin azim? He used the word Hakim and he used the word Alim. Because with the revelation, you need to show, the ulama said, with the revelation to when it's revealed upon Muhammad to all mankind, to have them, as we said at the beginning of the surah, having a guidance for them, hidayah. Al-hidayah, to guide someone, you need to be Hakim, wise. You need to have hikmah. The hikmah, everyone who is Hakim has to be Alim. But not someone who's Alim to be. Someone has knowledge, but doesn't mean that you have knowledge, you have hikmah. You're wise. But if you have hikmah, you're a wise person, at the same time you have ilm as well. Because you cannot use that wiseness unless if you have a good amount of knowledge, ilm in there. So Hakim, to give guidance to the people, and the one who's revealing that is the most important here to give, to show to the people who are receiving that revelation that is from someone Hakim, wise. When he gives you the guidance in the Quran, it's not from someone who doesn't know what is good for you, what is bad for you. He knows everything. He's Hakim. When he gives you haram and halal, when he tells you to do this and do that, it's out of hikmah. It's all known to him that this is the good and the right thing for you. Hakim, and use the word Alim after that. And the word Alim is Alim. So it's establishing, you might think that he is Hakim, but without ilm. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a Hakim, at the same time he is a Alim. Because you might think that, oh, it's a Hakim, possibly there is ilm. And that possibility, make it clear and make it sure. There's no place for possibility. There's a place here for being sure. He is a Alim at the same time. He is all knowing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything about you. Everything that is going to happen in this humanity, in this life, with the humans, after he sent Adam down, and he sent the Anbiya, and finally with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, min ladun hakimin alim. Maybe later on, inshallah, in the future, we'll come to ayat again about the hikmah and ilm. I will go into more details about the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually here as a hikmah, dhu hikmah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually the quality which is al-ilm. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started the first story. We have 6 minutes to introduce the first story to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we're going to have a number of stories. Before I start the first story, brothers and sisters, one thing that all the time I emphasize on the Tafseer lessons, I say to my students that do not think, do not have even a thinking in your mind that the Quran is repetition, repeating stories. Repeating the title of the person who's got that story, but details of the story and the context of the stories is completely different. You'll find the story of Musa starting from Surah Al-Baqarah until the end of the Quran. The story of Musa is repeated and repeated and repeated. Each time there will be a different occasions, even if the story itself is repeated about receiving the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we have in this ayah. The context that Allah mentioned it will be different from the previous one. And there will be a different objective, different goals, different aims from Allah in this ayat in Surah Al-Qasas, in this ayat in Surah Taha, in this ayat in Surah An-Naml in here, and Surah Musa is repeated in many, many times in the Quran. So that's whether it's Musa, Nuh, Adam, any Nabi. When the story is repeated, do not think is repeating the whole story. Is repeating, there is something different. Today, I said to you about the lesson something. Tomorrow, I will say something different about the lesson. So I'm repeating the same advice, but the context is different. The context and the reason of why the story is said is completely different. So that's something that you need to remember it, because one of the doubts the people outside are saying about the Quran is a book of repeating things. If we go and delete what is repeated in there, we're going to have less. No, that's not right. That's not right, because the context is different. And if the context is different, then there's no repetition in here. Today, I said to you, sit nicely because of a reason. And tomorrow I said to you, sit nicely because of a different reason, different incidents. And the day after that, I said to you, sit nicely because a third different incidents. And the reason of that would be completely different from a first story, second story, and third story. That's one thing that you need to know about that. Secondly, the reason of these stories is for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to know about the nations before him. When he goes and debate and talk to disbelievers, someone has the knowledge. And because of that, my dear brothers and sisters, there's no right for you to go and debate with anyone else outside to talk about something without having pre-knowledge, having foundation. You know about the knowledge of what you're talking about. You're coming because you memorize one or two lines, and when you finish them, you got to stop. You can't even add anything after that. What is the point? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's in Mecca. He's in Mecca now. And Allah, go and count how many surahs and how many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about Musa while Rasulullah was in Mecca. And the Jews has no existence in Mecca during that time. All of that is preparation. When you go to Medina later on, you have the knowledge. So when you talk to them with the ilm. You know inside out everything about Musa, about Bani Israel, about everything. And that is related to us. One of the lessons that we can learn here, don't memorize one, two lines and you go and you're showing off and you start debating and talking and all of that. It's knowledge, it's years of knowledge, years of learning, and then come and debate. After that, when you be giving the permission, when after you're giving that qualification, you know, Rasulullah was kept in Mecca for how many? 13 years. 10 years were purely about Tawheed. And then after that, ahkam about Salah for the last 3 years. So that's one of the reasons for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to know that, to have the ilm debate with the others. For us, as because this Quran was revealed for all mankind, for us is to learn and to know about them, to see when they went wrong, so we have to avoid it, and where they went good, and we will look into that. It will be possibly a Sharia for us, and we will follow that. Because the stories in it, they're saying, Al-Hakim man wa'idha bi ghayrihi. The wise person, the one is being reminded by somebody else. Someone was caught by the police outside because he made a mistake. Are you going to do the same mistake? You're wise. You're not going to do the same mistake because the police will stop you, will get a ticket. So be wise. You have people before you, nations before you, committed that sin and that sin and that sin. You be wise. Don't do the same thing. So that is the reminder for us. Otherwise, why we read it all the time, the story of Musa? Do you think that what is the benefit of that? The story of Musa, story of Noah, story of that. All the stories, every single story will be a lesson for us. Lessons, not even one lesson. So this is something that you need to remember when we're talking about the stories of the Anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. So let's start with the story of Musa, and then later on the story of Sulaiman and so on. Why all the time when we have Anbiya of Allah, we will have the first story, usually that's what we're going to find. It's either Nuh or you'll find Musa. Musa, the first, when you have a surah like Al-Qasas, many Anbiya in there, you'll find the first story we mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the story of Musa. Because the closest nation to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was Bani Israel, the Jews in Medina. And for him, you need to know them more, and you need to know about their information. Noah is vanished nation. Ad and Thamud, they are vanished nation. They are not there. So you need to learn lessons But Banu Israel still exists. You need to know them more. You need to be aware of that. And that's why I find the story of Musa and the time first amongst the other stories and longer because there are existing nations are there and you need to know more about them. So this is important for us. One of the tabi'in, he said, if someone gives me the Quran and takes the cover away, and I don't, let's say, assume that I don't know this is the book of Allah, I do not memorize it, I have no idea about Surah Al-Fatiha or anything, someone from the village, give him the book and read it, he will think that is a Tawrat. Why they think about Tawrat? Because the amount of the times that Allah mentioned the story of Musa alayhi salam, the greatest Nabi of Bani Israel, the greatest Nabi of Bani Israel, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Musa, is the third in the levels of the Anbiya, in the third, if al-Tafdeel. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the best Anbiya of Allah, and followed after Ibrahim and Musa alayhi salam. We have a lot to say about that, but we'll stop here, inshallah. If you have any questions, please go ahead with that. But my lesson is enough up to here, inshallah, for today. And Allah knows best. And I hope that you enjoyed the lesson. Inshallah, we'll see you next week with the following lesson, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.